A very good evening to you. I'm Lisa Lord, and in our news, a young woman stabbed to death in a Christchurch district. Anyone acquiring more than 10% in any financial services agency will need some permission. Social media reacts to those who bought tickets to the Buju concert and can't get a flight to Barbados. And in sports, Barbados racks up more medals as 2 of 3 Carifta championships come to a close.
Broadcasting from our studios in the Pine St. Michael, this is CBC News Night, starting now.
In our top story, April 23rd marked murder number 21 for this year. At around 8:30 this morning in Fair Pilgrim South Christchurch, 39-year-old Zanaba Moore was brutally stabbed to death. Our Shane Jones has been following that story the entire day and joins us live now in studio. Shane, what details can you give us?
Well, Lisa, it's a quite sad situation, and you might remember we were discussing with fingers crossed, hoping that the murders would abate, and we reached just over a month, 33 days to be exact, before this one. I'll just get out of the way and show you some footage now. This murder took place on the main road, a stretch that a lot of people use on mornings to get to work. In fact, I use it myself, and many cars could be seen slowing down, trying to get a glimpse of what was happening. So, Lisa, here's how everything unfolded. The Borded Hall police station received a tip-off from an anonymous mail caller this morning. That person told the officer on the other end of the line that he actually witnessed the whole thing, an altercation between a woman and a man. He said he saw him stab her and run away. Well, as you know, the Borded Hall station is just about 5 minutes or less away, and the police can get there even faster. So they obviously went there immediately. And when they got there, they found the body of a 39-year-old Zanaba Moore in the front veranda. The major crime unit was on the scene, along with investigators and officers who began to gather information. Now, Lisa, because of the way the house is positioned with that veranda facing the road, people passing could actually just look and see the body lying there. So naturally, when family and close friends got to the scene, it was just too much for them. Tears flowed freely, and you could feel the deep grief that consumed the entire area. People openly grieved and had to be helped and consoled, even by police officers. Again, I always have to say this is always a rough time covering these types of stories. Well, soon after that, the forensic van arrived to process the scene. You know what they do. They photograph the scene, dust for prints, collect any samples of any fluids left there, etc., all trying to get as much information as possible to advance the investigation. At least remember I told you that that anonymous caller said he saw the accused fleeing the scene. Well, the police brought in the K9 unit to assist them. They use Alsatians who are highly trained in search operations in these cases. So, Lisa, that's where it is now. There's an active manhunt ongoing to find the alleged killer of Zanaba Moore. And, of course, we will continue to follow the story closely and bring you up to date with the latest news as it breaks. Back to you, Lisa.
Thank you so much, Shane. Now to news from Parliament, where there was debate on the money laundering and financing of terrorism prevention and control amendment bill this morning. Attorney General Dale Marshall notes that once it becomes law, individuals looking to acquire over 10% of the share capital of any financial services agency in Barbados will need to seek permission to do so. He says the Financial Services Commission will have to approve the acquisition, and this change to the legislation will bring Barbados in line with international best practices.
It is important, sir, that our Financial Services Commission have the opportunity to examine carefully the individuals who want to take a major share of companies registered and regulated in Barbados in this area, and first issue an approval for that ownership. This is especially important, sir, as we have individuals who are engaged in funding terrorism and so on, taking controlling interests in many companies.
The Attorney General also notes that while Barbadians may think that talk of terrorism is unnecessary, the island must remain guarded.
Lest Barbadians feel that all this talk about anti-terrorism is of no import in Barbados because we're a small domicile. I have to warn, sir, that we continue to be exposed to all of these things.
And in her contribution to the debate, Minister in the Ministry of Foreign Trade, Sandra Husband, says the issue of meeting compliance standards set by international organizations has an impact on every Barbadian. She says it places tremendous pressure on small island states like Barbados.
Each demand asks of us to either put something in place which may cost us money. It may ask us to put something in place which certainly costs for a lot of time from the civil service to be able to put it together and make sure that it is passed. It puts pressure on our resources. And every time this happens, that we have to comply with something that the international community is asking us to do, where it's demanding time, money, or resources, it means that those things, the time, the resources, the people, the money, has to be diverted from another area that is of priority to Barbados.
Well, the issue of fees charged by commercial banks also came up during the debate. Member of Parliament for St. Michael West Central, Ian Gooding-Edgell, says that they are a burden on the average Barbadian, and he believes it's high time that these fees are reviewed.
The issue is, why is it that a bank that will have your money, and lends your money, make good profits, Mr. Speaker, why is it that they have to charge and maintain these charges on people, and particularly people in my constituency, who obviously from time to time will not have the resources like others, sir? And this is something, a source of concern. It continues to bother them, and obviously if it bothers them, it must bother me too.
Mr. Gooding-Edgell says other CARICOM territories are now considering implementing unexplained wealth legislation and believes that Barbados should follow suit.
I believe it would be a good idea for this country to move to a situation where you also have unexplained wealth legislation, because oftentimes there are persons who would come to a conclusion that a person has this and a person has that. And oftentimes, sir, we may be crisscrossing Barbados, and you recognize that certain people have tremendous wealth. I'm not questioning anybody's wealth, but I think the time has come where there's a need for such legislation in Barbados.
As Barbadians continue to reflect on the significance of Easter, a local church leader has reminded them that it is a time of celebration. Canon Peter Haynes made the remarks as he delivered a message for the Easter season at the St. Peter's Parish Church. He says Barbadians are traditionally Easter people.
We are people who celebrate resurrection and new life. We are people who celebrate the joys of the festival of Easter. But in reality, we are still pegged back, and we're still held back because we're still in Good Friday. We are in a Good Friday mode continually because we live with hatred, we live with envy, we live with spite. I'm going to get back at you, I don't like you. We live with all the things that carry Jesus to the cross. We're still, as a people, struggling with the context of that Good Friday experience.
And he adds that just like the risen Christ, we need to be liberated from those Good Friday experiences.
We need to move from those Good Friday experiences where we fight and struggle with each other. We struggle over bus fares, we struggle over what should be called, what should be the price to move people up and down this country. We struggle about the price of school children, we struggle about more taxes, we struggle time and time again with what is happening in our nation politically. But we're called to recognize as Christians that we can take it to God. It's not just about causing disturbance and causing trouble, but being able to carry the torch and being able to stand firm and show our nation, show people what fortune is all about.
The Ministry of Education is moving to highlight student authors across the island, and those efforts are set to get a major boost when it rolls out a major book digitization project sometime next month. Word of this from Parliamentary Secretary in the Ministry of Education, Senator Dr. Ramel Springer. He was speaking as officials donated several books to St. Ambrose Primary this morning in recognition of World Book Day. Other activities included online and in-store displays of essays and art by local students and radio broadcasts.
Our cadre of teachers at the primary school level were also trained in the creation of digital storybooks using online tools. Students would then in turn be empowered with the tools to transform their written work into digital books that can easily be accessed online. It is anticipated that this project will be launched during the course of next month, during the month of May. I urge you to support this initiative as we seek to recognize the excellent work produced in our schools.
What's Trending is brought to you by Trident Insurance. We treat you like family.
Now we say good evening now to Sharika Griffith, who is in our social media corner.
Good evening, Lisa. And here's what's trending. Buju Banton fans are counting down the days until they get to see the Jamaican reggae star perform. But some overseas patrons won't get that chance because they're unable to get a flight in time. Now, promoter Al Joke says they've had to refund those people, and this has generated quite a bit of chatter on Facebook. Don Clark is asking who's at fault for patrons buying the show ticket, but not one for the flight. She suggested that rather than being issued a refund, they could simply sell the tickets. Faye Oxley didn't leave anything to chance, arriving days in advance. She says if you're organized, you should have booked the flight as early as you bought the ticket to the show. And Anthony Small says he already has a ticket to Barbados, but a one-way return ticket after the show is going to cost a whopping $700 US. And speaking of Buju, the artist performed in Trinidad over the weekend, but not before police executed a search warrant on his hotel. Banton, real name Mark Myrie, spoke about the incident on Instagram.
No matter what, they can't break us. We see what's going on. We just want you to know what's going on. We see what you're planning. How can you obtain a search warrant for a hotel room on a Saturday? Okay. Still got love for you, Trinidad. They can't distract us. That's why we're here. For you, not them.
Well, not long after that video was uploaded, images showing the reggae artist meeting with Trinidad and Tobago's Commissioner of Police, Gary Griffith, appeared on social media. Commissioner Griffith reportedly apologized and even joined Buju Banton on stage during the show. Now, the long Easter weekend gave many people a chance to kick back, relax, and have some fun. Perhaps fly a kite or do some fishing, or if you're like the guy in this next video, maybe you decided to do both. I can honestly say I've never seen anything quite like that one. Now, usually when something good happens, we thank our lucky stars. But a Nebraska man may have to thank his lucky pothole. The 59-year-old man was in an ambulance on his way to the hospital with a dangerously fast heartbeat of 200 beats per minute. Now, that's well above the healthy adult rate for an adult, which is usually around 60 to 100 beats per minute. But at some point during the 20-minute drive to the emergency room, the ambulance hit a large pothole. And believe it or not, the sudden jolt shot the patient's racing heart back to a normal rhythm. Now, a 24-year-old Wisconsin man has more money than he knows what to do with after buying the winning Powerball ticket worth, listen to this, $768 million US. Manuel Franco claimed his prize earlier today, only the third largest lottery amount in US history.
It's just, it's amazing. It feels like a dream, and it feels honestly like any moment I'm going to wake up and I'm just going to be back in my room, you know, in my bed and laying, and it's going to be a disappointment, but I can see that you guys are all here and it's not that way. I simply just can't believe that an ordinary guy like me could ever win the Powerball.
And Manuel has decided to take his winnings in a lump sum instead of installments. That means he will walk away with a total payout of $477 million after taxes. And that's what's trending for this evening. You can find us easily on Facebook, Instagram, and by email. Lisa, from 768 million to 477 million. That tax man hit him pretty hard.
Of all the questions you could ask me, you asked me the one about gambling.
You know why.
It's a lot of money though. What was the original amount again?
768 to 477. If my math serves me correct, that's roughly 290 million. But
that's a lot of money.
I guess it's still 477 million more than he had before.
A lot. Attorney General Dale Marshall has not labeled the recent gun amnesty a success, but says it had its advantages. The week-long amnesty saw a total of 32 guns turned over to police. Now, he says that the amnesty gave those with illegal guns the chance to do the right thing.
I suppose it's fair to say that every single gun that comes off in the street is one less firearm that's out there to be used by the criminal element. I don't think that we were able to attract people with the powerful, what they call high cyclic weapons and the Glocks and so on. But perhaps that was never our expectation anyway. I think this was an opportunity to say to people, do the right thing, but thereafter we will be doing what we have to do to protect the country.
Well, a small businessman in St. Joseph is counting his losses following the long Easter weekend after thieves broke into his Cleavers Hill supermarket in the wee hours of yesterday morning. When a CBC team visited the establishment, owner Paul Roteford was busy along with some workmen securing the property. The wrought iron gate was damaged and the glass front door was broken. He says the alarm was raised just after 2 when police alerted him about the break-in. He is still putting a price tag on the stolen items, which included alcohol, cigarettes, and foodstuff. Mr. Roteford says the incident forced them to close the business yesterday, which also resulted in further losses.
Today would have been a day that we would have been open from 8 till 2. And as a result of the incident, we had to close for the day and take stock to get a proper indication as to what was taken. We're a small business located in rural Barbados, so obviously any day that we close is a significant loss to the business. But these, I guess, are the challenges of being in business in today's Barbados.
Well, the Ministry of the Creative Economy, Culture and Sports is spearheading an initiative to create a national register of Barbados historic places, both at the community level and otherwise. The revelation from Minister John King. He says historic places are not simply great houses and symbols of our colonial past, but also places where someone important to a community may have lived or where a significant event took place.
We want to document as many of these places as we can, but your help is needed. With the assistance of the Organization of American States, the Ministry of the Creative Economy, Culture and Sports has embarked upon a project to develop a national register of historic places, which allows from communities across Barbados to have a say as to what is of historical significance to them. When fully functional, the information will be available on a mass web-based interactive database called Arches, allowing Barbadians yet another avenue to connect with the images and the places of importance to us, hopefully entreating persons from the diaspora to come home.
As food vendors and eateries resort to utilizing alternatives to styrofoam containers, some patrons have been complaining as they compare the alternatives to what was being used before. Of concern to some, the heat tolerance and the buckling of some food containers. Now, green energy advocate Mark Hill says that the products will respond differently.
As a natural fiber, it's going to breathe. So you might see maybe some buckling happening initially, but it's not going to lose its form because of the mold that it has. All right, but the product would behave a little different from the thing. The other thing that impacts on it, just go back, is the environmental conditions as well, because it is bio-based. But it is this very thing that we need to work in cognizant with the environment.
And Hayden Rind of the Barbados National Standards Institute says that the quality of the replacement is key.
As a country, we have, I guess, initiated, but we need to see through perhaps the adoption or the development of a national standard treating to bioware, treating to bio-based food products, and start there, where I don't think that the importers or the distributors should be sifting through 20 or 30 different types or brands failing quality first to settle on what brand do we use. You know, certainly we're going in a direction where we have a national standard at the end of this process, and that standard speaks to a minimal quality that's permitted for anything that's imported or anything that is produced here.